So our next, excuse me, our next presentation is from Emily Nowlan from Tessian, of whom I've been a customer twice now. We've just signed up for one of their services again. And you have an inordinate number of customers on the island. I think you're setting some kind of record. Emily's going to be talking to Will Wilson, who many of you may know as the Head of Threat Protection and Governance at Altum. So the stage is yours.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Perfect. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the last session before lunch. Predictions, presumptions, and planning, how forward thinkers build their security defenses. I'm Emily Nowlan, an account director at Tessian. I've been at the company for just over 2 years now. And when I'm not talking about cybersecurity, you'll find me watching a newly released documentary, dabbling in some climate activism, and planning my next escape from London. So it goes without saying, I'm very happy to be on this island today. I am joined by Will Wilson of Altum Group, who will introduce himself in a second. But for anyone who doesn't know Tessian, we are an integrated cloud email security provider. So we protect our clients from the full spectrum of email-based threats and data breaches, and in doing so, enable them to stay on the right side of the regulators, stay competitive within their marketplace, and help them reduce cost and complexity across their security stack. And we do have loads of customers in jerseys, so really great to see some familiar faces today, the likes of Kerry Olsen, Altum Group, Intertrust, etc. And hopefully we'll meet a few more here as well this afternoon. So Will, you clearly know a lot of people in this room, but hopefully some newbies as well. So why don't you kick off with an intro to yourself and your role?
Sure, thanks. So I'm Will, I'm Jersey born and bred, had a bit of experiences off the island, started off my career as an accountant. Well, that tends to mean a slightly different thing these days thanks to TikTok, before jumping more into the IT audit and cyber advisory world of things there, finally going the other side of the fence, actually into industry. Very similar to role as to where I am now, but for a big FTSE global company, challenges of managing lots of offices and integrations which had probably never been finished. So it's really nice to be at Altum, which is probably much earlier on in its growth curve with the PE backing. I guess my title itself is a bit of a mouthful, so really that's cybersecurity, information security, data protection, technology governance, all of the bits that no one else really wanted to put their hands up for and that I was too slow to opt out of. I guess, a bit more about me is young family, nice spaniel, big fan of boating, using the water, getting as much out of the island as possible.
Awesome, thank you. So we'll just do a reminder of the abstract from the session to go over some of the themes that we'll cover in the next 25 minutes or so. So when tasked with the impossible, security leaders plan for the unplanned, predict the unknown, and presume the inevitable. But yet somehow they can defend and protect their organizations against sometimes the most dangerous attacks, some of which we've learned about this morning already. We will dive deep into how to build resilient security defenses while offering insights into cyber predictions for the year ahead. There's a lot to unpack. Buckle up, we're in for a ride. I think the last sentence is a bit overzealous. We've only got 25 minutes and we're talking about cybersecurity, but we will see what we can cover and leave some time for questions at the end. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I'm looking forward to finding out more from you, Will. So on to the first part of this. When we were prepping, we were talking a lot about how running a cybersecurity program at a company is very much striking a balance between people, processes, and systems. And Will, why don't you start by telling the audience a bit about where your focus has been, and if there's one that you're leveraging more, why is that?
Yes, I think I've had the experience to see a lot of businesses, especially as wearing that ex-auditor hat. People often spend a lot of time and attention on tooling, technology. It looks great. It's quite easy to sell to the board. There's probably then a lot less focus on people. It's often easier to get a new tool approved than some additional headcount, even though the costing is going to be actually less overall. And then I think you've got that mixed bag of processes. So you've got some companies who might have picked out a framework and be quite far along down the line there, lots of audits, external audits going on, but then you've also got those who have got a business continuity plan, and that's about it, and it might be a bit out of date. I think my personal view, especially when it comes to the technology piece, is probably not to always go for those sort of top right Gartner quadrant items, and actually trying to simplify things and consolidate that stack a lot more so that we can spend a lot less time switching between several different consoles, trying to bring everything back into a sim, which is also a bit more difficult. That then means, hopefully, that we've got a lot more time for the people to actually spend. We get more efficiency out of people there. And then, yeah, on that process piece, especially as we're very much in the early doors, we've been setting up to scale, setting up to grow, so trying to put in place those frameworks from, even if it's a thin line from A to B, that we can then work over time to build out those maturity steps and reinforce those.
Awesome, thank you so much. And I think this is all happening in the context of, and I'm taking this from a Deloitte paper I was reading this morning, so thank you, Deloitte. Cyber and the technologies you're implementing, not just being specifically about achieving a secure organization, but actually boards seeing cybersecurity as really a strategic part of growth of a business and success of a business. So can you tell us a little bit about, since you started at Altum in the last couple of years, like what milestones you've accomplished from a security maturity perspective and the impact on the broader business?
Yeah, sure. So I was quite fortunate in that when I joined, it was a relatively clean security slate, and actually a really great technology team who'd already done a Azure migration and a bit of a fresh start there. So things like putting in Intune, kicking off that project, a lot of re-imaging to be done along the way, using security baselines, not necessarily exactly off the shelf, but to suddenly just get us to a point very quickly, which worked, but just being mindful that what were we going to break along the way. I think it was really great. I think within the first 3 months, we'd kicked off that Intune project and had rolled out MEM for mobile device management to all staff, without most staff even really having much of a bump along the way. Whereas previously at large organizations, it's been sort of sat in proof of concept for a year plus and could never get that board sign-off piece to really push that over the next line. I think then it's been really a progression along the way of continuing to work on a lot of those policy items at all points, working Cyber Essentials Plus more recently, working, I guess, to build out some of our zero trust journey so we can look to place a lot more reliance on actually endpoint trust, all the metrics we're getting from those. And then bringing, because we were with that Microsoft First shop, we were able to very easily, effectively stand up a SIM to bring all our logs into one place. And then more recently, actually, we've taken on board an external SOC. So I guess we've just got a bit more peace of mind at night. And when I go on holiday, it's a bit easier to sleep there as well.
And you've got 2 weeks holiday coming up on Friday,
yeah.
So we'll get this done quickly. So one of the things we haven't mentioned yet is this term AI. And if we can just pivot for a moment for our audience. So I'm having a lot of conversations at the moment with organizations who, I was speaking to a CISO, they've had an objective set by the board. We want you to implement AI as a central part of your strategy in 2024. And sometimes I feel like there might be some expectations that need to be tempered, or we need to navigate these conversations in terms of the impacts from a security perspective. So could you share with us a bit like your thoughts on the hype around AI and how you think it's playing out in a security context?
Yeah, I think it's definitely been with us for a lot longer. The actual hype at the moment around AI is, large language models and thanks to natural language processing, those sort of progresses that people made, and the fact that everyone has been able to go and play with, ChatGPT and ask it to write a little song about their family or something. But I think we've gone past sort of, that Gartner hype cycle. We've gone past sort of the first peak, and the question is, where are we towards sort of that trough at the bottom there before it actually becomes functionally useful? I think there's going to be certainly a couple of bumps along the way. And it's going to be really interesting, things like Copilot from Microsoft coming out. At the same time, quite conscious that the bad guys have also got access to these same tools. So I've definitely seen actually some of the more immature attacks we used to receive, certainly from a phishing perspective, become a lot more targeted, and even actually trying to use other tools to extend the reach outside of our security boundaries, so actually target people at their home, Gmails and Yahoos and things.
And we'll come to Copilot in a moment, but just curious to know what your advice might be for any leaders in this room who are trying to navigate those conversations with their leadership team around implementing AI.
So I guess it's going to be a difficult conversation. You're going to have to think, how serious are they actually asking for it? Because this is the latest item, and we've had it before. We've had the robots and everything else before it, and everyone wants those things, and they kind of want them turned on tomorrow. And they very much expect, because they've been able to just go online and play with GPT, that they can turn it on tomorrow. So I guess it's, actually the pace of change at the moment is huge. What's the business cases? Have they actually identified? Or do we just need AI, and maybe it's a marketing thing? We just need to have AI now so we can go out to market and, yes, tell our customers that we've got it. And then actually, has anyone set aside budget, and where do you want it to fit in next year's project stack? Which project needs to fall off the bottom of that list, pretty much? And then you move into, I guess, your more general project considerations. But I think at the moment, if you want to do it properly, it's going to be quite expensive, and it could be outdated very quickly.
And also, I guess because it's developing so quickly, you expect maybe commercially things to change and become more affordable down the line. Yeah. Fantastic. So I wanted to take a moment then to focus on Copilot. So for anyone who doesn't know what this tool is, I've just taken an excerpt from Microsoft's blog. Today, we're bringing the power of next-generation AI to work, introducing Microsoft 365 Copilot, your Copilot for work. It combines the power of large language models with your data in the Microsoft Graph and the Microsoft 365 apps to turn your words into the most powerful productivity tool on the planet. If you still don't know what it is, I'm going to let Will explain, and also tell us a little bit about the considerations you might have if you're implementing this at Alton Group.
So I guess, putting that security hat on, you're definitely placing a lot of trust in Microsoft, and that they're saying, yes, it's locked down to your tenant, but everything is also new as well. The wider considerations of what should we be doing around here aren't really written. You can't very easily find a framework, or which countries maybe approved that framework at the moment. I think personally, I'm just slightly worried they're also placing a lot of trust in least privilege or need to know that everyone's saying they got out there, but actually you go to SharePoint, someone's put at some point a file on SharePoint, they haven't shared it with you as far as you knew, but when you then go and ask Copilot to say, oh, tell me all the salary data, oh, guess what? You actually did have access to it, so Copilot's going to respect those boundaries and say, yeah, here you go, here's all the salary data. So I think that actually is a bit of a worry for me, especially, and then back to that change of pace that is going to be there, and people have heard so much about it, and they've been asking for AI generally, so they're going to want it very quickly. Personally, I'm quite excited, though, as an end user, because I use the Bing GPT Enterprise all the time. I think it's actually really helpful. I think the question is, does every user in the business then need it? And it's going to be interesting as well to see what happens when they get to version 2, actually having, being able to find specialist chatbots and then instruct your CEO chatbot and say, go and do this, and it goes off and finds exactly the right one you need it to. So that's, when they extend the reach again, that's going to be really interesting.
Got you. And so, there are loads of considerations, right, when you're thinking about implementing these tools, but no doubt that's probably one pillar of a bunch of objectives you have for 2024. So I'm sure the audience would love to know a bit about what is top of mind for you going into the new year.
So actually, we've probably got a lot of integration work to do, and making sure that we bring people, systems, re-image machines into our environment and bring them all up to our standards without breaking too many things along the way. That's probably going to take quite a bit of time. I think more focus probably actually now, I think we're in a quite good place, but some more focus probably on the information security side of things. Again, extending some of those documents, those frameworks, those registers that you have to keep. I guess what I'm watching is going to be, as I say, the impact of Copilot AI itself. What's going to be the next attack? We've seen QR codes recently. It's sort of become quite a popular thing. What's going to be next that they're trying to, as soon as it's whack-a-mole ultimately, isn't it there? Then I guess it's probably also looking at, we've invested heavily in our licensing, so actually making sure that we're getting as much value out of those licenses as possible. So I can definitely see a bit of a project around information labeling and doing some dynamic tagging there as well. And again, more on the zero trust. We've done a bit with FIDO keys already as proof of concept, so I can maybe see that being rolled out to some users when they're using BYOD from home. bit more passwordless. It's going to be busy, yeah.
Thank you so much. That's super interesting. And I think one of the, if we can, again, just pivot maybe to the employee piece, one of the things I hear so often from organizations is that they can put all of these tools in place, but humans are humans. We all make mistakes. We've all, done our work, wanted to do it quickly, wanted to get it done, and maybe to the detriment of doing that work securely. And I think this comes down to how do you ensure awareness of, the right data protection policies that people should think about in the moment when they're doing their work. In the spirit of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, can you share with us a bit about what you're doing with awareness at the moment and how that's fitting into your broader strategy?
Yes, sure. So I definitely see it is a resource issue, not necessarily cost-wise, but time. But I very much choose to focus on that staff awareness piece and try to also be aware of everyone else's resources so that I'm not flooding their inboxes and I'm not giving 1-hour chunks of training, but try and break it down across the year. Not just training videos though. Actually, yes, you've got your phishing simulations in there and then teaching people, okay, why they failed afterwards, but also a lot of poster campaigns, try and keep those fresh around, just some way for people to engage, blog posts internally as well, and not just, we've rolled out a new version of MFA, but also actually, did you see this at home? It doesn't impact us because we don't use this tool, but maybe you should be aware about it. And trying to educate people to be safer at home and just hoping that if they can be a tiny bit safer at home, then they'll also be safer at work. Mm-hmm. When it comes to October, I put a lot of effort in there. Last year, sort of tried to come up with something which actually engaged people a lot more. Hopefully they then actually be like, I know who security is in the business, who to come to, and also learn a bit about it. This year, decided to dabble a little bit, building an app. Certainly for Jersey people, a bit of a copy of maybe the Tortoise Takeover or Pokemon Gotta Catch Them All, but effectively having to go around our office, scan the QR codes for each cyber control, and then earning points, badges, bit of competition between the different countries, different teams, and hoping that they do actually learn at least one of those cards from it.
You're very humble because I saw this app last night and it was really, really cool, and I now want it at Tessian. So it sounds really interesting. And on that piece, how do you help your employees keep up with emergent threats? We've just mentioned QR codes. Those have burst onto the scene in the last few weeks. How do you stay ahead of those, and then how do you disseminate that information for your employees?
So I guess personally, for me to stay ahead, it's I guess there's the day-to-day, which is looking at some news aggregators, colleagues around me, including the colleagues who then send me something and say, did you know about this? And most of the time, yes, but actually it's really great because sometimes no. Then there's events like today, but also throughout the year, like CSF events that do take a lot of effort people put on. And then actually I've tried to make sure I pick a couple of key partners and resellers who quite happy to spend once a quarter an update and saying, this is what's coming, this is what's happening, by the way, did you see this? And it's not so they can sell something, because quite often they can't, but actually I'm a bit of a techie there. We quite get on and discuss those bits. Mm-hmm. With staff, I think there's in-the-moment training, trying to actually stop them and explain why they've been stopped, but then otherwise, it's trying to share those messages that at some point they might see a little post around, watch out for these things, these are changing, but I guess that's trying to do behavioral change slowly across the business.
Mm-hmm. Got you. And I got a sense there as well, you mentioned that, colleagues and peers might message you, hey, have you seen this? What are your thoughts on cross-firm collaboration? Do you want to see more of it? Why do you think more firms may not get involved? And how do we break down the barriers for that involvement?
Yeah, so it's definitely difficult in Jersey, I think. Jersey is small. Yes, we have Chatham House sort of style events, but people aren't going to be probably discussing the actual problem there. They're going to be talking about how can we maybe do things better. I think those are great events. It's trying to find the time to organize them and book it into when do you do it, when it works for people to have those events and things, Mm-hmm. I think, as the previous iteration of, for example, like the NCSC's, SISP for sharing information, there just wasn't enough traffic and activity, so it's having enough actual momentum that it keeps going and people are looking forward to the next one rather than when it see it come along and just fades away a bit.
Mm-hmm. And are there any communities that you engage with outside of Jersey, or are you pretty much?
Very much Jersey, probably based,
Yeah, okay.
there's a lot on the plate already, yeah.
Yeah, we spoke about that last night. Okay, so we're coming on to the final bit of this, and one of the topics that has come up on a few talks I've been to recently is this cyber skills gap in this industry, and I'm just curious to get your perspective on what your experience has been, if you see it, or how you're coping with it.
Probably not so much now, because I am very much a one-man security team at the moment. So yeah, I do get involved in everything, roll up sleeves and do cables under desks at times. I think there's also, in Jersey, you've got the business challenge nowadays of what's your business case for it? Because a lot of places are saying the next hire should be, by default, be in a lower cost jurisdiction. That Jersey's cost of living is quite expensive already, therefore, are we going to hire all of our cyber staff perhaps in Jersey? I think, yeah, there's a lot of talk around training people at school, focusing that they can then end up. But I also don't think that everyone needs to maybe start as a cybersecurity analyst. I think you can have a lot of potential for internal transfers. There's a lot of transferable skills, and I do think, though, having a techie understanding can be really good, but it doesn't necessarily have to be someone from the technology team, and especially at that more senior level, it is really a lot around risk management. But if you've been on the ground, then it's just going to be easier to explain those risks as well and see how they actually fit in.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Some really useful insights, I hope, for the audience there. We have a few minutes for questions. Do we have any questions from the audience for Will while he's up here? No heckles for you yet.
No. Cool.
I think we'll wrap it up then.
Okie dokie.
Thank you so much,
Emily,
everyone.
Will, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.